Good evening, everybody. This is, I think, the second lecture in the lecture series of the Department of Architecture this fall. And it gives me sort of a very special and pleasurable experience to introduce to you my friend Pancho Lienur. This is not the first time he's lecturing at RISD, but it's the first time that he is teaching. So now he's one of us. And I have to tell you that when I first met Pancho, it was because a friend of mine told me, Gabriel, this guy came to work at the office. He came from Venice. He was working with Manfredo Tafur in Venice, and he knows everything. And I remember I always thought, that it was common for architects not to read, and I didn't know what to read, and I wanted to read. And she said, you go talk to Pancho, and he will tell you what to read. And this was so long ago that I had hair like this, and Pancho had handlebar mustache. This was, I think, was 1977, right? Okay. So most of you, were not even thinking about being alive, much less being in this architecture school. But at the time, it was very interesting because I remember that if you knew an architect in Buenos Aires that had read Walter Benjamin, you knew that was a friend of Pancho's, because that was the only way somebody would read something like Benjamin. So in any case, Pancho is trained as an architect and is a critic and a historian. People would like to say that lots of people say that he's the most important Latin American historian in 20th century architecture, in modern architecture. This is, if nothing else, that, for example, now that the Museum of Modern Art is deciding to make this major exhibition of Latin American modern architecture, Pancho is one of the 2 or 3 people that they call to organize this. In my mind, he is one of the most lucid minds to talk and to think about architecture, contemporary architecture, historic architecture. And I'm looking funny because I see people like Judith Wallin or Dietrich Neumann that are other people that I consider like that. So there's too much people here, too much. In any case, Pancho has written extensively articles and books about Latin American architecture, the definitive book about 20th century architecture in Argentina, a number of articles about all sorts of questions about modern architecture and its broader role in society and economics. He's currently doing research on shanty canons. He's teaching here a course on the canon, the architectural canon of modern architecture as seen from outside of the European, North American perspective. More than anything else, every time that Pancho talks about a building or a piece of architecture or something, you learn something that you never imagined that you could see. So without saying too much more, oh yes, I'll say one more thing that is actually very, very important. That is that one of the things that Pancho has taught in the most prestigious universities in Europe and in the United States, and in the most prestigious positions in Argentina. But among other things, he founded a new program at a very important university, Universidad de Tela, first as a graduate program, and then as the dean and founder of the professional program in architecture that has been running now for 5 years. And that means that he is, at some point in the next few weeks, he's going to graduate the first class. And this is quite an amazing new program. We have at least one student. We have an exchange, so we have one student from there, and I would encourage you, if you're thinking about going to study in Latin America and Buenos Aires, to think about this university, this program that Pancho started. And now, yes, let's have time.
Hi, good evening. It's terrible because after this introduction, I'm sure I will disappoint you. So, thank you very much. And thank you for this invitation and for the possibility to share with you some impressions, some ideas I collected around this issue of the Casa Chorizo, a typological precedent of modern architectural urban idea. Well, we have to start from the beginning. So, what the Casa Chorizo is about? So, sausages is this kind of sausage we call chorizos are very common. You know, the eating of a lot of meat in Argentina is very frequent, and when you make our barbecue that we call asado, one part very important is the chorizos like this. That are not exactly the same thing that sausages, I think, in the US. But anyway, why this image? Because the chorizos are, those are, I think, 6, but they could be 7, 10, 11, 12. It's a sequence of chorizos, of sausages. And this sequence can be short or large, but the idea of the sequence of units that can be repeated, each one equal to the other, more or less, not exactly, but more or less, is what inspired this designation as Casa Chorizo for a very typical house that used to be, I think, built in the Rio de la Plata region, because it's not only in Buenos Aires, but also in Montevideo and other cities in South America, in that particular region. So this is what the metaphor regard to that. In a cultivated architectural field, following French theories, we will call this enfilade. But we are not so cultivated in Buenos Aires, and we invented this word. And architects used to normally, frequently, to refer to these kind of houses as Casa Chorizo. Having explained the theory of the deep theory of this point, let me introduce you very briefly to the graphical, that is important, and somehow the historical context. This is Argentina. Buenos Aires is located here. This is the Rio de la Plata. Actually, it's so all these are the Andes, the big mountains. The Amazonian comes more or less until this region, and this flat, enormous surface where you can put Spain probably, and Belgium and the Netherlands. This big, enormous surface is what we call the Pampas, and these are absolutely flat, enormously flat surface. So flat that we call this estuarium a river, but actually it's not a river, it's somehow as a humid land, but probably too humid, but it's not really. Sometimes you can walk the river 100, 200, 300 meters, 500 meters, and you have water here. So it's not clear at least. I think it's because political reason that we call this a river, because in that case the river is divided in two countries, otherwise it will be divided, it will be international as a value. So, but this is the Rio de la Plata. You have to take into account that from here to here are 230 kilometers. So it's a big river, or which is not the idea we have from a river, about the river. So this is the country, and the flat is important. The idea of this flat, enormous flat land. Buenos Aires is located there. This is one condition. This is Buenos Aires, the shore of the river. This is another country, it's Uruguay. And this is nowadays it's enormous configuration with 13 million inhabitants, more or less. It's the capital city of the country. There is a federal district more or less here, and the rest is part of the what we call the metropolitan district. And also something about the origin of these houses. So it's important to take into account that in the 1700s, it's a re-edition, the Spanish Empire decided to unify the legislation that controlled regulated the foundation of new cities in the Hispanic territory in the Americas. So they created this that are called the Leyes de India, the laws of the Indias, and those were the laws that regulated the new foundation of the city. At the beginning, the cities had different shapes, but after this regulation, the new cities started to be reorganized in this way. And this is a very typical plan of foundation. The city of San Juan in Argentina. And as you see, it's a square, it's a big square with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 square, 5 square per 5 square, with a hole here in the center. Here is the plaza, with the cathedral probably, with the cabildo, the institution, the civil institution. This is the heart or the core of the colonial Hispanic American city. This square, in order to have an idea, had 100 meters per 100 meters. And this is the key of the expansion. This will be the key for the expansion of the city. As you start to see here, this big square of 100 per 100 meters were divided in smaller squares, and so on and so on and so on. So this is the scheme, but not only the scheme, is the way all the new cities after the since the 17th century were founded and organized in the whole territory of South America, but also obviously in Argentina. This was the way Buenos Aires was founded. Here we have the plan of the foundation of Buenos Aires. Buenos Aires was founded twice. First, we can error twice things. We have to repeat because the first one is never the good one. So this was had also these two moments of foundation, one in 1536 and the other one in 1580. The first one by Pedro de Mendoza, the second one by Juan de Garay. The first one was abandoned and destroyed, and nobody knows exactly where it was located exactly. But the second one is this one, Juan de Garay's foundation. You see here the river, and actually we have a half of the plan because it was in the shore upon the shore of the river. So here was located the fortress, and the city was organized there. As you can repeat this and remembering the San Juan Foundation, you will be repeating the type of the normal cities in South America. Here we see the division, the subdivision of the squares for the plan, for the Garay plan. And we see some of them divided into halves and some quarters, and this division will continue since that moment because obvious reason is the subdivision of the property and heritage, etc., sales and all this normal process. And the type or the kind of organization, these are some images of the 18th century and 19th century, beginning of the 19th century of the same city founded by Garay, Buenos Aires. You still here see the fortress, then the fortress was destroyed and disappeared. Nowadays, where the fort is located what is our White House, that it's actually a pink house. So, with the development, this is the way, finally, the manzana, we call the block manzana, like apple, and this 100 per 100 meters unit is here. And as you see, here you can see the maximum subdivision that is allowed, or was allowed, by the laws. And this is the shape of the normal blocks in Buenos Aires and in many other cities. I would say in most of the cities in that region in South America. And you see here this measure that is repeated all along the front of the block. And this measure is 10 varas. Varas was an old colonial kind of measure. 10 varas is equivalent to 8.66 meters. So the typical terrain, the typical site into the manzana in Buenos Aires has almost ever, 8.66 meters. As you can see, we see here is something very interesting and very different from what is happening normally in these kind of subdivisions in the US, in the northern or in other countries. That is this square condition. Simple mathematics tells you that the maximum site is 50 meters. You have one big terrain here, 8.66 per 50, and this small in the corner. With this, will have the possibility to have a garden, a backyard, etc., and the other one probably not. And this irregularity is something that is also important to take into consideration. So as an idea, it's supposed that some regulation say that the core has to be free, but it's not really true. But anyway, this creates a sort of, at least from here up there, this front is clear, a very rhythmical and equal way of ordering the street or the landscape, the street landscape. This is also very important. So this is the normal kind of contemporary manzana block in Buenos Aires, but it was not ever this way. It was developed in time, and here we have a beautiful drawing from a plan that was designed at the middle of the 19th century. And here you can see something that is important to understand the difference. You see these kind of houses, you see that those are not 80 per 10 varas, bigger than 10 varas. Those were the colonial kind of houses. We like the Roman houses with patios organizing the type. The old house was organizing probably in two parts. This more public, this more private, with probably a fantastic garden, as I was saying, in the center of the block. So this was the way you can see many of these houses organized around, even in the corner, around patios. But you start to see also that in the smallest size, like this, you start to see that as happened with the city, the houses are organized in semi-patios. The patios are not located in the center, but in a lateral position. You can see this here, and here there are many other houses that are organized in this lateral patio or courtyard. So with the types during the colonial times, the types of the house were the smallest. Obviously, the smallest were for people that could not afford the biggest, but not necessarily. They were also built by as units to sell or to rent, and those are some of the colonial. Is probably for a corner, a small one, but you just start to see what I was saying at the beginning. The sauces is one, and the enfilada of the, and you can see in most of these examples, even this is for rent, for instance, but in most of them, how they are organized in this sequential form. And this is more developed one with variant. In colonial times, this front was used probably for commercial uses or not necessarily, but it could change. But anyway, these are typical houses with a lateral patio interrupted by these other houses. Here we are in the late 19th century or the beginning of the 20th century. And this is an anonymous one. You can see the way it was organized. When we arrive to the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century, the context changed because it's not anymore a colonial city. Buenos Aires, on these cities, but many Buenos Aires started to be an immigrant city. So, if in the colonial time they were built more or less for one owner of the site, it was not exactly the case when during these immigrant times for the city. So, why I would say this type imposed also during the immigration time. So we have on one side this fixed dimension and this fixed dimension. It's very long and on one side, but this does not necessarily justify this sequence and this way of or this kind of organization, because nowadays, for instance, mainly since the middle of the 20th century, these houses in the same terrain started to be organized as a compact house around the kitchen, around the humid units of the house, but not necessarily in sequence like happened in the 19th century, mainly in the 19th century, and the beginning of the first half of the 20th century. My idea, my hypothesis is that they did not build the house, as I was saying, as a unified operation. Normally this is a unified operation, but this is not this case. We were investigating this issue, and we discovered that at the beginning, or during the last decades of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century, actually the occupation of the site was, I would say, eventual. The immigrants came, or this new population came, and probably built one unit here, probably in wood, probably not necessarily using brick. We normally, our way of material for construction mostly is brick, but in that moment normally was wood or steel or corrugated steel. And why? Because we discovered also that it was used not necessarily, it was the owner who built that. Most of the terrains were rented, not occupied, not bought by people. Because it gave them the possibility to change site from one side to another. And I have to say that this is related to the extremely flexible way of production in that part of the world at the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century. Sometimes producing cotton, sometimes producing wool, sometimes producing meat for the international market. It was ever changing. So these people did, in some cases also organizing this around factories. And these people, they didn't want to stay in one side, to be fixed in one side. So this is why they prefer to install one room and then, if necessary, to move this room to another place. There are photographs and many, many testimonies of this kind of movement of this house. But with time, they stabilized it and they started to probably to build one another and another and another. In this sense, we have to take into account another question, that is the family. Those were not the typical families we know now, or we knew in the 20th century, mainly in the heart of the 20th century, father, mother, two children. They were very complex families. The unit was these houses were inhabited by with a very complex unit, probably with friends coming from the town in Italy that were migrants, probably with the grandfather, the grandmother, or a cousin, or many other people. So the family also changed in time. It was not stable, and the other instability was the stability of the capacity to have this, maintain the place for work. Sometimes they were, sometimes they were not. So they could, if you have this kind of sequential form, you could reduce, if you were in the bad times, you could reduce your inhabitation in these two rooms and rent the others. Or you could, when the couple here of the cousins went to their own house, they could rent this. So it was very flexible for this moment, and it has to do with the flexibility of those years, probably until the, I would say, the 30s in the 20th century. This is really very important. And those are some of the expressions of the house. Once they had more money, they could build the facade, with brick, etc. But in the interior, the houses maintain this way of organization I was talking about. Those are other types of these, what we call casa chorizo. And you can see here, this is a plan from 1941 of the city. And in 1941, this a sector of the city. You could see the intense occupation of the terrains, and as I was saying, all with this small unit, these long units of these houses. This is one. Those are factories probably, or public buildings. And here again, more modest, probably not so intense like in the previous case. But when you see the terrains it's really a repetition all over the city, and the cities, I would say. So this is in order to have an idea about what we are talking about when with the cassette chorizo. So now I will develop 3 episodes related to the title of this presentation. And that means the relation between these types and the avant-garde and the ideas in architecture and urbanism. The first episode, I call the first episode, Photographers and Poets. Because actually, this is one photographer who called Coppola, who was one of the most probably relevant photographers in South America in that moment. That moment means the 20s, end of the 20s and beginning of the 30s. He went to Germany to study at the Bauhaus photography, and he came back to Buenos Aires and started to see the city with the eyes of a Bauhausler, someone coming from the Bauhaus. I would only show you some of the images where we find at least two characteristics that are important coming from there. One is this idea, this love for repetition, for the idea of series and sequence. This is one, and this has to be important for you in order to put in relation the interest of these people on that vernacular, I would say, product of the cassette chorizo. Really, it was an urban vernacular, not a rural vernacular. And this is what it was made this type very so interesting. So this is one. The other one, the other characteristic of Coppola's photography is the love for the geometric games. He loves verticals, he loves triangles, he loves diagonals, he loves plans, he loves pure geometry. This is very, he learned a lot in this. You see here, those are images from the early 30s. His love for repetition and geometry is clear in this image. Here again, the enormous interest on, you will see all these games of diagonals and verticals and horizontals and contrasts. Those are beautiful pictures from that time. With not only those are plans that are intersecting and in a very contrast way. As in this case, the same thing. The same here, and this beautiful view of people in the street. And you see here this slum, we call these medianeras. This is party walls. And those are very frequent because they were not only small houses in this terrain, but also big buildings like this one that have this part is a law. Simply, it remains like this, and Buenos Aires is characterized by having big medianeras like this, that for an artist coming from the Bauhaus, to have these enormous white, probably flat surfaces was wow. Somehow the paradise. And those are the pictures he took from these houses in the city. You see what I was saying at the beginning, the sequence of the more or less equal facades and repetition and the plans, and you will see here this, what I would call this sort of, it's difficult to say that this here Coppola was looking for the history, because there was no history here. In the 20s, you can imagine it started 30 years before the process. So it was not really history what he was looking for. He was looking for something that came from a popular production, anonymous, that was pretty modern, the idea of looking for the anonymous production. And at the same time, he was looking for, he was in love with this geometry, this cubic geometry, and this abstraction that he could see these kind of pictures are cubes in the space. Those somehow, and we are seeing, for Coppola, they were somehow in relation simultaneously with what was happening with the avant-garde he perfectly knew because he was there in Germany. Those are the kind of landscape in the barrios, in the neighborhoods, also in that moment, and those another picture where you see the same characteristic I was describing before: diagonals, lines, flat surfaces, repetition, flat surfaces again, etc., etc. This is a beautiful expression of that landscape. Nothing, sky and the horizontal and nothing more. And this also was a kind of abstraction that for a modern artist like Coppola was important to show. Those are other views of the Casa Chorizo. As you see, art, same thing, same type, same. And also, you could say, well, this is, yes, somehow expressionist, and here a little bit cubist. And in fact, the author was this little girl here with his brother, and here the little girl, not so little, with his brother. His brother was Jorge Luis Borges, and he was Nora Borges. And we know that Borges, the big writer, the big poet, went, when he came back from, like happened with Coppola, when he was in Switzerland during the First World War, and came back in the early 20s to Buenos Aires, and he was absolutely aware of the discussion in Zurich and the avant-garde in Europe in that moment, but he wanted to see Buenos Aires from the eyes of an avant-gardist poet also. And he came with Coppola, who was his friend, to see this same neighborhood, the same houses, the same landscape in the city. And Nora, his daughter, he even made the cover, the drawing for the cover of one of Borges' first book, actually the first book, Fervor de Buenos Aires, which is a poem book, as you can see there, in 1923. And so I have here and this one is the core of Evaristo Carriego, the following Borges book, which had in its interior the picture, the photographs made by Coppola, exactly. So what was Borges looking for here? I think he was trying to make an extraordinary combination, or a very subtle combination, between avant-garde, the future, between avant-garde, the local, so the production of these people that was there in Buenos Aires, and eternity. Because he also didn't want to deal with history. He wanted to deal with more than history, which is eternity. This is a translation, a book I found with the translation of some of the, actually the whole book on Fervor Buenos Aires. And this is from there, Unknown Street, called Unknown Street, Miracle of the Glowing Street, intimate and deeply stirring, and only afterward I realized that that place was strange, that every house is a candelabra where the light burned, each in its separate ray. The idea of more than real, the idea of eternity will come again here. This is about the patio, this so important lateral patio that characterized the Casa Chorizo. He says the patio is the slope down which the sky flows into the house. Certainly, eternity waits at the crossway of the stars. It is lovely to live in the dark friendliness of covered entrance, way, arbor, and wheelhead. So, and these are beautiful one, house houses like angels, which he also refers. Like in the previous case, he's referring not to some ideal place, he's referring to Buenos Aires. This is why the book is called Fervor de Buenos Aires. But he takes this corner, this intersection between these two streets, San Juan and Chacabuco, are very well-known streets in Buenos Aires, and there he started to see this, I saw the blue houses that were called adventure. They were like banners and deepas, the dawn that flees the outlying quarters. Some are dry, brick color and some brown color. They cool radiance is a passion before the deep face of any round discouraged corner. So this was the operation of these artists, the creation of a modern culture, local culture that could be at the same time modern, international, based on the local reality, but looking at eternity, and the future will be this eternity. Episode 2 is, I call this unaspected cubism, but actually it's not cubism, but cubismus, which is different, using the German word. This is around another figure that also came from Germany to Buenos Aires in 1931, and this is this person here, Werner Hegemann, who this is a picture when he was showing some, with some architect friend of him, some different possibilities for a new housing code, zoning code for Buenos Aires. He was an urbanist. He stayed for 3 months in Argentina, going from to other cities, Rosario, Mar del Plata, etc., and making some plans and trying to learn from them. And I ever asked myself why he went there and what he did there. And this is only one piece of the answer. But this is Werner Hegemann. He was the director of this famous, enormously important magazine, Städtebau, and in Städtebau, he published, previous to his trip to Buenos Aires, he published these kind of articles underlying the importance of this client house syndrome, these small houses, colonies in Stockholm. This was not an article by Hegemann, but he was the director. And what in these articles he was interested for was the way this in Denmark they were creating responses to the housing problem, but involving, affecting the participation of the inhabitants. It was sort of, this was, is considered one of the first known experiences, conscious experiences on the self-help system of building houses. So he was supporting this idea, and then in following, and here we see the inhabitants doing this, and in following articles, he will himself, as you can see there, Stockholm and Kleinhäuser, write also an article on the same question, promoting the idea of a city that should be a combination of high density in the center, but very restrained with a powerful zoning law, and an infinite expansion of the city with low density, because this low density allowed the inhabitant to be in relation with nature, and it will be better for everybody. And at the same time, in social terms, he was very interested in promoting this kind of popular organization for the houses, and you see here the kind of houses he was mentioning in that issues. And here we see Hegemann with Lookout. And this photograph is important because it appears in the magazine a month before his trip to America, South America. So then I realized that I started to understand why he, or what he was looking for in Buenos Aires. Not only what he was giving or bringing to that place, but also what he was looking for. And he wrote, after his trip, he wrote in Tedebau these articles as Tedebauer in South America, where he described Buenos Aires and his experience there. He described the dimension of the city, the problems of the city. This is the second part. He criticized the zoning law because it allows this kind of thing that for him were a monstrosity, and this is why he proposes the kind of buildings I showed in the first picture. So a change of this zoning law for the center. This is a drawing where he tried to show with this zoning law the entire population of Buenos Aires will be located in this small place in equal surface instead of occupying this big surface. But what is more interesting is these other articles called der Randsiedlung über die Mitkaserne. What means the victory of the colonies, in Bell colonies, I would say, is correct? Bell colony? No?
Settlement.
Settlement. On the Mitkaserne that were the worst way of inhabiting workers in Berlin. And so, in order to show the alternative he found, we say, look at this picture in the same gaze that repeat the gaze by Coppola, and those are the kind of illustration that Hegemann used to present this alternative to the Mitkaserne, to these horrible elements in Berlin. And he enhanced he really underlined the capacity of these small houses to expand and to even to have a small garden, to cultivate lettuce and tomatoes and these kind of things, and to be in relation with nature and not and having or proposing a kind and self-help built by the same people that were inhabitants. So it were for him those were examples of how this could be, and this is why he said this victory. He talks about this victory on the Mitkaserne. And he writes another. He was really very enthusiastic about his experience in the south, and so he wrote this one that is more surprising because it's Schinkel guys in South America, the spirit of Schinkel in South America. And he said in the article, and I think I have one here. Yeah, this is sorry for the picture because I did not have many time to prepare this lecture. But anyway, you can see here typische houses in South America around Montevideo. Not this is in Uruguay, similar in front of Buenos Aires. Built before the times of our Cubism in Germany. So he was saying that these things were pre-Cubist, and so those are Hegemann's pictures, and you see again more or less very similar to that of Coppola at the beginning. This repetition, they were everything, and these cubes, perfect Schinkelian kind of modernistic cubes that he found in Buenos Aires. Third and last episode. Ceci n'est pas une pipe. This is not a pipe, you know. You know this is a very well-known kind of Bergson Architecture, the book, the last page. With this, what is why I choose this, and the idea of Ceci n'est pas une pipe, because
actually, Le Corbusier went to Buenos Aires in 1929, 3 years, no, 4, no, 2 years before Hegeman. Hegeman knew about that. But anyway, what was looking for he he was looking for getting a job and big jobs and convincing the elite there in order to give them to give him a job. It was a failure for him this trip, but anyway he also discovered some very interesting things in the South regarding the cacio chorizo with the mentality of this person that was talking about the objective, the tips, the types of the kind of object that can be repeated and that should be considered as the best example for the creation of a new architecture that should be also typified and repeated. And the idea was how to found laws for this new kind of product that will be the modern house. So this is the book written by Le Corbusier in relation to the trip to Buenos Aires. This is the famous image what I was saying before. This is like a Coppola's picture, no? The horizon, the sky, and nothing more. This is the river in this case, no? Not like the plains in Coppola's picture. And those some of the ideas he was bringing there, the ideas he took with him when he went to Buenos Aires. He was convinced about this. I think it was a small mistake, but anyway, in that moment he could think that probably Buenos Aires will be the counterpart in the South. He was French, and in that moment that he came to the U.S. in the 30s, so he didn't know the U.S. and he, like a French, he hated the Anglo-Saxon world. And he was trying to create a sort of Latin alliance, and he thought it could be probably found there some allies in order to, with a lot of money, with the capacity to help him to build this international Latin alliance. So probably this was one big reason that can explain, but I will not take many time to talk about it. Anyway. This is the situation. He went there, nobody asked him for a plan because there were other planners, other very well-known French planners and people from Argentinian origin also making plans for Buenos Aires. But anyway, he proposed an idea for the plan that you probably know is this one, with the skyscraper of the river and the rest of the city there, and this was what he was doing. This is a nice drawing because it talks about something we were also talking about. He hated the block system, the grid in Buenos Aires. He said how to translate le damier maniac, please.
Maniac grid.
Grid. Maniac grid. But he hated the immigrant city, this city that grew up a lot on the grid. But he did not hate the colonial city, the previous one with another density, etc. With that grid I was showing you before. And coming to South Buenos Aires in order to visit one of the city, the recently built capital of the province of Buenos Aires, called La Plata. He went to La Plata, and in this going to La Plata, he opened his own eyes, blaming the local architects and the local people about not having opened his eyes in front of this, saying that this is modern architecture. This was modern architecture. Those are casas chorizo, obviously. He found in his way to La Plata. And it's nice to see the combination of these, and all the themes and the topics I was mentioning before, with also this modern industrial element that was part of this bric-a-brac somehow that could be considered like accessories. 30 years, no, yes, 20 years after this trip, in 1929, in 1948, one young lady came to Corbusier's atelier in Paris and asked him to build a house in the same city, in La Plata. And this is the city, the house, the Corbusier's house in La Plata, and this how this house looks, and it's a wonderful house he finally built. He took a lot of time, but anyway, in the middle of the 50s, he could finish the house. And these also are some images of the house. The house cannot be understood without a reference to this other activity, activity in Buenos Aires, because he was asked at the same time. Actually, he was not asked. In reality, some of the disciples that worked with him in the 30s in his atelier had very good relations with the local power in the city of Buenos Aires, and convinced, because eventual reasons, convinced the mayor to develop the ideas of the plan, Le Corbusier's ideas of the plan. So he was really very interested in participating in this new office for the plan of Buenos Aires. We are talking about 1947, 48. At the same time, as I was saying, nobody called him, and he had very, very big problem with these young people. I will not talk about that. But anyway, why this is important? Because at the same time, he received the commitment of the idea of this invitation to build the house. One very important thing for him was to convince Buenos Aires public opinion and the authorities that he was not a modernist barbarian. He went not to Buenos Aires he didn't went there to destroy the city and make, Brasilia or something like this, new and departing from nothing, and etc., etc. He was trying to convince them that he will make a sort of palimpsest, a sort of relation between the existing city and the future of the city, and the laws will be important, the development in time will be important. So this was his state of soul, I would say, it was his state of ideas. And this is why it's important to this, in order to understand, to come back to our house in La Plata. Because this is La Plata. This is the plan, as I was telling you, it was founded in 1883, during the last decades of the 19th century. It was a very young city. It has this axis, the main axis, the forest here. The entrance of the city was this, for the city, coming from Buenos Aires. And the terrain is located, for the house is located here. The 95 there is here. So it was a very visible place. And otherwise, if you don't put together in relation the plan and the house, it's impossible to understand why Le Corbusier in 1948 will do this small, really very small house in La Plata at the end of the world. He was in India, he was in Chandigarh, he was making a lot of things in 1948. And I think that it happened because he was so interested in the plan for Buenos Aires. So, once he received the proposal, he asked immediately, what we have in both sides of the house? And the answer was this, in negative and positive. This is a house in the corner there. This one. And the other one that is a compact one, is the modern one. And in the other side, you have a casa chorizo with the lateral patio. So I think, I'm convinced that what he wanted to do was to mix in one side, in one piece of work, these two things, in order to say, in architectural terms, that he was not there to destroy, he was not there to not considering with respect the existing city, that was the Casa Chorizo. You know, this is what we found in one side, and this is what he found in the other side. So you can understand how, and it's very complex, I will not take many time here to explain the complexity of the house. But anyway, you can see sort of Casa Chorizo here, with a patio, and the compact house over the Casa Chorizo. And this mix from two houses, of the two types of the city, I think was what for him was so important. And let me show you, what happened here? I don't know. Okay, anyway. It's most of disproportion, but anyway, you can understand what I'm trying to say. Look at this model and this drawing. Look at this line here, the continuity of this line here. And look at the continuity of this plan with this one. So he was, this front with this front, and this front with this front. This was the block, the compact house. This was the Casa Chorizo. The dialogue between the two houses and the enormous tension between the two types is what I think he with a fantastic, wonderful resolution. This is a drawing, again, showing the same characteristics, is what he was trying to do there. So this is a good picture. I had a discussion with people from UNESCO that were considering declaring as a humanities treasure, the house, and I say to them, you have to declare everything, both houses, too, as part of the project, because otherwise you will be considering the house as an object, and it's not an object, it's more than an object. So, but wow, I committed a mistake. The house does not continue here, and the line not continues here. And this is where I say traduttore traditore, the translator that
Trader.
Is a betrayer, no? And the translator was it's a fantastic Argentinian architect called Amancio William. Amancio William did not understand that the house had this problem. And he didn't care because he hated the idea of maintaining the city. He was not really a Corbusian, this fine Corbu of the 40s and 50s. And so he didn't care. He received the plans, and he didn't care about these not coincidences. And in my opinion, this literal translation of the ideas of Le Corbusier destroyed the main proposal in this house. Those some images and for today. Yes, I can take. If not, thank you again. We can go. It's something else. See you all.